I want to start off by thanking you for the beheading with the figure skate because I I was a figure skater when I was younger, and so this was like my childhood dream come true, seeing somebody beheaded with one.
That's hysterical. I adore you for that being your first thing up. Like, that's so funny. I think it's a little intense. Like, first, I'm like, wow, like we did that. Like, that's kind of a lot, guys. But it's ridiculous. It's hysterical.
I The first thing I said to my husband when I came home was, "Oh my god, they killed somebody with a figure skate. I love it. This is like my every childhood dream come true finally."
You probably, if you like, as a figure skater, you probably had enough of a lot of people, and you were like, "I'll just use my skate."
Oh my gosh, so much. And those
That's,
things get sharp too. People
it
don't
can get
realize
sharp.
those.
It's
Yeah.
true.
So, can you talk a little bit about like what was your role as a producer on Violet Night? Like what did you do?
Yeah, I mean, like all the project at 87 North, I sort of, with my team of executives, we sort of find them, we sort of develop them, then we get the cast attached, and then, I mean, David and I are definitely on set for the things we produce almost as much as we're on set for the things that he directs and I produce with him. And so, it was all in, which I think is part of, I think we are a little bit micromanagerial in the sense that we have a brand that's kind of bigger than the project in a sense, and we kind of need to be in there, whether we like it or not, trying to help make sure that whatever is has our label on it feels a lot like one of our movies.
Can you talk a little bit about where the idea for the movie came from?
Yeah, I mean, Pat and Josh, the writers, actually have had this idea since high school. And funny enough, they used to do sort of like one of those like kids club video things that had a broadcasting at their school. They went to school together. And they had done a sketch about this back then. And then they came to us and we're like, what do you think about this? And it's just like, oh my God, that's absolutely genius. And we have to do it right now. And then fortunately, Universal saw how special it could be as well. And so we feel really
Mhm.
lucky that we got the chance. It's pretty crazy. It's kind of gonzo. You got to kind of like buy in. So
Oh,
we,
it totally is.
yeah, we feel really lucky that that all happened that way.
It's really gory and really violent. It lives up to its name. But it's not really a horror movie. It doesn't have that horror movie vibe to it. Why did you decide, or why did they decide not to go that route? Why kind of stick with
It,
more of an action comedy route?
it was never intended to be horror. It was always going to be action comedy, and it is action comedy with a couple of like shock and awe moments, which I think is part of what makes great action sometimes too, is the surprise. That's just kind of similar to horror. I think, if there's any sort of like whisper of horror, it actually comes from Tommy Wirkola, the director we decided to attach to the project, who, is known a lot for some of his more horror space, although he's done just action and action comedies and action drama as well. And so he ended up being kind of the perfect director because he was ready for the big, but could sort of like, land the heart as well. So if there's any whispers of horror, it's probably coming from him.
How did you decide to attach him to the project?
He's been an old friend for a long time. Funny enough, we are huge fans of his Dead Snow, and we've actually helped him
Mhm.
with some of that stuff, just suggesting an action coordinator, director, some for that sort of stuff. But he directed a movie called Hansel and Gretel for Paramount several years ago, and David was his second unit director before David was a director, and they really clicked. And David was sort of more experienced with bigger studio movies and kind of helped guide Tommy in what was a, you know, sort of tougher sort of experience with the studio. And they became really close friends, and we've been wanting to do something with him for a long time. So then he recently did this movie called The Trip in Norway. And it was just this perfect project that really articulated sort of where he's at, that he can, you know, it's a great, if you haven't seen it, it's a great movie, but it's got a lot of comedy to it. It's a dark comedy and a lot of great small action. And so that ended up being a great calling card for us to be able to say, let's put him into Violent Night. And he got the job.
So I know that you were on the set for The Fall Guy when you came away to take this interview. What can you tell us about The Fall Guy?
It's awesome. We are having an absolute blast. Our full cast is here now, and we are in full on. And I just am so in awe of Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt and Winston Duke and Hannah Waddingham. And I just feel so lucky, and Stephanie Hsu. And I just feel so lucky that we ended up with such an extraordinary cast and like incredible actors. And, you know, it's gonna feel a lot like an 87 North picture and a lot like a David Leitch movie, you know, original, wildly inventive, and emotionally impactful. And I'm just really, really excited about it already.
Cool. So what about it excites you most?
Honestly, it's David coming from stunts and telling a story about a stunt man who, you know, is coming into his own through having to investigate, you know, a crime is incredibly special in the sense that we get to do, we're really trying to do a lot of practical action on this. We always do, but in this case, it's really big practical action. And it just feels like, you know, we're paying homage to the stunt community and to really cinema and those of us who make the movies. And it's sort of a love letter to the industry. And, you know, and on top of it just being really fun and you know, and what I think will be a really good time for the audience.
And I know it's based on a 1980s series. Were you a fan of the series?
I'm not that familiar with the series, but it is a series that I've gotten to know since I have been on the project. But it is definitely a series that a lot of stuntmen became stuntmen because of. So, and they did phenomenal action for the time. The practical action weirdly doesn't really happen in television shows anymore, but back then they were doing incredible stunts on the show every day. And so it's pretty cool to have that as our sort of, you know, like trying to pay homage to that, I should say.
Are all of the stunts then going to be practical in the film?
You can never say all, my friend.
Okay.
All of them will have elements of practical, and a lot of them will be 100% practical. In fact, our visual effects guys are like, you know, happy and sad that their jobs are really marginalized on this one, because these days visual effects is really king, you know. So they're sort of like, this is amazing, and what's my job? What's my role? Because you guys are doing so much in camera. So that's where we want to be, and that's really exciting.
And so what else are you working on?
We're working on a lot of originals right now. We are also working on a Nobody 2. We're hoping to start working on a Violent Night 2, if everything goes well the next few weeks. You know, we are, you know, we have a tendency to just kind of keep our heads down and focus, you know, on sort of what's in front of us or are near. So yeah, that's kind of it. You know, we're in it. We still have 2.5 months of work to do on this one.
How far are you in the process of Nobody 2?
We hope to make it next year. So fingers crossed.
Okay.
You know, our theory is you don't need to make a sequel just to make a sequel. We need to make a great sequel. And so it's about making sure that we get it right. And if we do, I think there's a lot of hope that we can go next year.
Well, thank you so much. I think that's all I've got for you. But
Thank
it
you,
was a
Elise.
pleasure talking to you.
Nice talking to you
You.
too.